Hey guys, Sleepy Reader here. Having a latte for lunch. This is gonna be my kind of review of X-Treme X-men issues 1 through 5. But I don't know if you can hear the music playing. It's from the, I think it's the soundtrack of the off-Broadway version of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. I've never seen the Broadway version, I've seen the movie. I recommend it to you if you've never seen it. It's kind of a transvestite punk rock opera, extremely campy. If you like, David Bowie and Iggy Pop and punk rock, or just things that are really campy, kind of that transvestite sense of humor, I think I recommend it. It's a really good rock opera. So, I'm listening to it because after nearly 5 years since my daughter was born, I haven't listened to a lot of my CDs, and I kind of broke out into them and found some things I'd forgotten about. And this one, in my mind, just kind of ties into to X-Men X-Treme. Because X-Men X-Treme's main hero is Dazzler. And in the first issue, in our introduction to Dazzler, we see her walking by a transvestite street performer who's impersonating her and singing one of her songs, or maybe her one hit or something like that. Dazzler's kind of the joke, one of the one of the 70s disco joke that came out of X-Men. Did this camera just slide? I was gonna drive and talk, but I think I'll park in one of my many parking lots. This one is the parking lot that's always empty and has lots of trees. Great place for a serial killer to hang out, I suppose. But also a good place to get privacy if you want to read your comic books in a parking lot. Or talk to a camera in a parking lot. Yeah, so X-Men X-Treme is drawn by a variety of artists, written by Greg Pak, who's probably most well known for Planet Hulk and the World War Hulk stuff. I really liked Planet Hulk a lot. So in X-Men X-Treme, the basic setup is, and it's all set up in the first issue, is that there's endless multiverse of worlds, common in comic books, with different versions of the X-Men on each one, and the team in X-Men X-Treme are different X-Men from different multiverses. We've got Dazzler from our normal Marvel universe. We've got a teenage Nightcrawler, 14-year-old, who's really kind of a cool character. And we've got a version of Wolverine, of course. You can't do a book without Wolverine. But this Wolverine's quite cool. He's the president of Canada, and he's kind of described as a cross between our Wolverine and Teddy Roosevelt. And so he seemed like a really cool character. And then the version of Professor X, who's our main Professor X, is a head in a floating bottle. And he was part of this big psychic event that saved a world, but in the process awoke 10 evil Xaviers across the multiverse. And so the job of this team is to hunt down the 10 evil Xaviers and kill them. Although Dazzler keeps saying, but we don't kill. And that may or may not be an issue to be explored. But starting with the transvestite performer of Dazzler, I think that signals to us from Greg Pak that this is going to be a campy, fun, goofy kind of comic book, and that's what it is. It story arcs that in other comic books would take 6 or 12 issues are wrapped up in 2 issues, and then at the end of each 2-issue arc, this is the pattern so far, we get a glimpse into the next world we're going to go to, or a teaser of some sort into the next world we're going to go to. And so I find it to be a lot of fun. The first world they go to is kind of maybe Sumerian level civilization ruled over by gods who are Thor and Storm and Sabretooth and a few others. And eventually we find out where the other superpowered beings are. And then there's some betrayals and a big twist on those betrayals. And one member stays behind on that world. In an interesting transformation, and it all happens very fast. Bang, in those 2 issues things are wrapped up. The reveals happen very fast. It reminds me of maybe early 80s or late 70s comic books that you might find from Marvel or DC, where they tended to have some sense of continuation but tended to also wrap up a lot of things at once. And another pattern we're seeing in this comic book is of twists of who you think is the good guy and who you think is the bad guy shifting. And we've already seen Pak lay down a lot of clues that there's going to be more twists on that. So the upside is you get a lot of adventure for your money, a lot of fun. It's campy, there's good humor to it. Dazzler constantly seems to find new outfits, where she even finds the outfits when they're rushing through different universes, I don't know. So it's not to be taken too seriously, at least so far. And I like that. And the downside of that is there's kind of a hasty sketchiness to it. And things getting wrapped up too easily. Although there's still this overarching story, so things that may seem wrapped up may not be as wrapped up as they seem. And there's the raising of the specter of the moral issue of killing people or not killing people, but I don't think that's being taken too seriously either. And as White James Brandon has mentioned, because he's the one I learned about this book from, this book actually makes you like Dazzler. She becomes kind of a fun, likable character, kind of a little bit self-mocking, perhaps. Thinks she's so hip, she's so into herself, but she may or may not be that hip herself. But she does make a nice sort of moral core to this. Somehow, because she's more into the world of music than the world of superheroes, she seems a more relatable center. Supposedly she's one of the most powerful mutants. I always find that hard to believe. Her power is to turn sound into solid light. What is solid light and how powerful is that? I don't know. And it's not very clear here what her powers are doing. And I doubt Greg Pak is interested in exploring exactly what exactly all of Dazzler's powers are or what they mean, but who knows. I think an interesting thing, because to me this is very comic book, is a lot of writers in comic books these days are trying to do things more like movies, a more cinematic approach, or more like dramatic TV, like CSI or something along those lines. And when you hear them interviewed, they're talking about the 3-act theory and all, making lots of references to the way they talk about scripts in Hollywood. And Greg Pak is a playwright and a filmmaker, and the film of his I've seen is called Robot Stories, and it's definitely a kind of indie film. It's got three parts to it. Each one is a different sort of variation on the idea of a world with robots. And I think he plays a robot in one of them, like a robot, think a robot business executive or like a robot business assistant. And so I find it interesting that when he writes comic books, he's not trying to bring theater to comics or bring movies to comics. He's just trying to do comics in comics, and I really appreciate that. So X-Men X-Treme to me is kind of a light breath of fresh air. I mean, it's still kind of intense adventures, and you know, our heroes are in peril, but the peril, you know, ends quickly and is wrapped up within 2 issues. And there's so many. It's a $2.99 book. There's so many X-Men books out there. I don't know. It's probably getting very little promotion. I don't know if how long it will last. If they have 10 Xaviers they need to get, if they do it the way they're doing it so far, every 2 issues, within 21 issues they could have the story wrapped up. So maybe they'll survive long enough to tell their story, I hope. And I haven't seen anything about Marvel Now involved with this series either. Another downside is the art is serviceable. It's not the art, for the most part, it's not art that wows you. And that's another way it's more like an older comic book. The art is not, there's not all these huge panels and huge set pieces. It's just workman-like comic book art with lots of panels. I do find on some of the, maybe on issue 3 and 4, the coloring is too dark to my taste. I don't have the copies here with me. So anyway, yeah, I think once I put my finger on the fact that this is camp, that there's a camp element to it, and comic books have always been something that relates to camp, and that's the kind of comic book it is. Not as campy as, you know, the old Batman TV show or whatever, but there's a certain wink and a nod and let's just have fun here kind of approach to it. And I guess apparently it's similar to an old book called Exiles, which I never read, so I don't know how much it steals from that. I hope not too much. It would appeal to people who like to explore a new universe every two issues. It kind of reminds me of some of the bad Star Trek episodes where, you know, one issue there's Greek god, or one episode there's Greek gods, the next episode it's a planet of mobsters, and the next episode it's a planet where there's still a Roman Empire. It's that kind of cheesiness too, to the different universes, because we had the one universe where there are sort of ancient gods who are superheroes, and then the very next universe we're in a Wild West town, and apparently all the superheroes are in this one Wild West town or one Wild West area. But it's fun, you just don't think about it too much. So I hope everyone's doing well. I've been watching a lot of videos. I'll try to make some shout outs, but I probably won't remember nearly I'm just going to shout out to a few. I'm glad to see Red Vitamin Blue Vitamin back, if that's the right name. Anyway, he made a video just recently, it was quite good, and I hope to see more by him. He'd been kind of out of the picture. Twin Titans seem to be back, which is cool. Been watching lots of DaCosta DC, Mongo Stomp Time, Curse of Man, of course, Agent 42Q, and Minutia Minute, and Ghost Critic, and oh, now my mind is drawing a blank. I haven't seen anything by Poet Skinny too recently. I hope he's doing well. Dreadful reviews. Cameron, you wrote me an IM under your new YouTube name, and then that YouTube name, by the time I tried to write you back, that YouTube name was deleted. So I did try to answer you. I hope you're doing well and will pop up somehow doing videos. There's a new channel that's done by Agent 42Q and Minutia Minute. called Graphic. Now I can't remember the name. Anyway, cheers everyone. Talk to you later.